All right, thank you everyone for this. Is actually going to be very timely after listening to the last few sessions about the hub operators talking about some of their challenges, because we're going to talk about how some of our messaging and our discussions around what Mojaloop is and how do we work with countries has changed, and it really resonates with what the last two panelists were talking about. So first, let Young introduce himself and what he's working on.
Sure. Thank you, Steve. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kyoung Shin, and I'm a doctoral researcher from Oxford University. And I'm very excited to be here today on the stage. It's my second time in Kigali to attend the Mojaloop Foundation's community convening. And it's great to reconnect with friends and colleagues, and also great to connect with new friends and colleagues. So, I mean, this community convening is very meaningful to me as I'm presenting some of the research that I've been working on with Steve. So we started this research I started this research about 2 years ago. So I've been following this Mojaloop community for quite some time now. And now we are producing some research deliverables. So this paper that we're going to be presenting today is one of the research deliverables that I'm working on. And there are more to come. So stay tuned.
Thank you. And I want to highlight that the ones that are more to come are far more interesting. This one is about our journey over the past couple of years, but I think Kyung's been doing some excellent research into our entire ecosystem, and we're excited to see what's produced from it. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm a member of Oxford University's Future of Finance and Technology Initiative, and we conduct research at the intersection of finance and technology. We are management researchers interested in understanding the disruption and innovations caused by technology in the financial sector. And like I said, we've been studying the Mojaloop community for quite some time now. And the Mojaloop ecosystem is a very interesting and unusual one, as it has achieved something that is often not possible. It first built the product, the Mojaloop software, and built an ecosystem, innovation ecosystem around it by convening different stakeholders, including central banks, regulators, banks, fintechs, philanthropic organizations, and etc. So we thought it'd be super interesting to study how the Mojaloop Foundation and the Gates Foundation as well have been able to do that, have been able to establish an innovation ecosystem around its core product. So that's the focus of the research, and the focus, the key question that we're focusing on is how to build and orchestrate an innovation ecosystem to tackle societal challenges, which is financial exclusion in this case. And as I mentioned, research outputs will be available soon, so stay tuned. And I'm sure the Mojaloop Foundation colleagues will help circulate the outputs. Yeah. Oh, and I also wanted to mention that I'm incredibly grateful to the Mojaloop Foundation and the community for supporting my research. And I've been speaking with many of you, and thank you so much for supporting my research, and your insights have been very, very helpful. So, yeah. So as most of you know, Mojaloop is a digital public good. So I'm not gonna be talking too much about that because you're the experts. And we are mainly interested in how DPGs like Mojaloop contribute to tackling grand societal challenges, such as financial inclusion. And we are approaching this topic with an ecosystem perspective. So what I mean by that is that stakeholder dynamics are the main interest of our research. I mean, orchestrating an innovation ecosystem is not an easy task because it involves a lot of stakeholders from different backgrounds and who are coming from with different interests. So we're studying how the ecosystem orchestrator, which is the Mojaloop Foundation in this case, kind of align different stakeholders' interests and achieve the goal, which is financial inclusion in this case. And lastly, building an inclusive innovation ecosystem is crucial. We've heard from different speakers about the strong emphasis on the first I, the inclusive part of IIPS. And without this inclusivity angle, it won't be different. I mean, the Mojaloop won't be different from the existing systems. So the goal of tackling a societal challenge, it misses the mark. So that's where we're focusing on in our research.
Okay, so the first part of Kyung's research, which we've been helping with, is to talk about some of the challenges of building that ecosystem and what we've faced, and then how we address some of those challenges. So, and we've heard a lot about this. I mean, I look down this list; it's what we've just been hearing about. There's some type of an aversion and risk aversion towards open source. Some entrenched procurement processes, both for governments but also the international organizations that support governments. There's the complexity of the market timing for inclusive instant payment systems. And this is something a lot of people don't quite think about. I mean, one of the things that I think Gertrude said that I think was amazing, she's describing all of these services that they're offering that they've been offering for years now, as has Zeco, as have so many other switch operators. They're already offering the services that we've been talking about. What they're coming up to now is, okay, what are the challenges we have in bringing down cost? How do we bring down cost? How do we think about the future? And so it was when we first started talking about this, there weren't very many examples in the market. But now there are many examples in the market. And that's been able to allow us to talk about the nuances, like why agreement of terms is important, because when we get to scale, we can start seeing those nuances. We had no examples to be able to have this conversation. The long sales cycles, and I think anyone who works on this knows that you have an idea now. By the time most of you as hub operators see this as a product actually in your market, it could be 3 years from when you have an idea. And that's another big problem of trying to build an ecosystem that's excited about something when we're not going to see any results for years. So some of the things that we've done, and most of you are actually quite aware of this, is that we've introduced our proof of concept program and our accelerator program to get more hands-on experience. Alain is one of the first graduates of the accelerator program. Not that we have anything to do with how brilliant Alain is. And then we have, I think, about 10 or 12 other graduates of the accelerator program. The KPMG team from Kenya is also in the accelerator program. And I think there's about 6 countries here who have been doing proofs of concepts under the proof of concept program. We've also taken on much more of a role of being strategic advisors, which previously was more focused on our role of maintaining the open source. And then the last one is adapting our messaging to market evolution. And so that the idea of sovereignty and control is obviously something that resonates much more closely with people than some of the other nuances of an IIPS. And so we've really been focusing on that aspect of it. And I think that's also helped grow our community as well. Still a lot of ongoing challenges, as you can see. I don't want to get too much into this because it's about us as an organization. But if you are interested in the journey we've been on as the Mojaloop Foundation, in terms of how do we engage with you as the community, this paper will be out, I think, in the next couple of months, and you can read all about it. And very quickly, and maybe I'll skip through this, but the number of countries and the impact for me is actually who's in the room right now. When Ki-Young first started looking at our ecosystem, it was primarily technologists. And now there's only a few technologists in the room. It's primarily central banks, hub operators, and adopters who are in the room. And that shift of the ecosystem, I think, is one of the impacts that we can see most clearly. And most importantly, the past 2 panels of the people who actually understand what Mojaloop is and are driving Mojaloop are no longer us. They're the actual implementers. And that's been a big impact. So I'll pass it back to Young to talk about the lessons.
Yeah, so the Mojaloop ecosystem provides several lessons that can be applied to other DPGs. I mean, the first one is about understanding stakeholder concerns. Often, open source software solutions can be met with some skepticism, particularly around issues like security and support. And that is especially the case when we are talking about using open source software for national, infrastructure. So by engaging directly with stakeholders and offering hands-on demonstrations, we can address these misconceptions and build trust. And in the case of the Mojaloop ecosystem, I think the Mojaloop Foundation closely partnered up with African Nenda to engage with local partners and local clients, etc. And I think that really played an important role in achieving all the achievements that have been made. The second one is about adapting to market dynamics. Markets are constantly evolving, and it's very essential to be responsive. So, for example, Mojaloop shifted its messaging to highlight themes like sovereignty and inclusivity, which resonated well with stakeholders in emerging markets. The third one is about fostering collaboration. Collaboration is really at the core of the Mojaloop ecosystem, and without collaboration, I think Mojaloop would have not been available. And the technology, the product itself was developed by through collaboration among technology providers, and collaboration with African India, as I mentioned, was critical, as well as with other key stakeholders as well. And the fourth one is about embracing continuous iteration. Adoption is not a one-time event. It's an ongoing journey that requires adaptation as new challenges arise. So I think the Mojaloop Foundation did a really good job in providing embracing continuous iteration. And lastly, diversifying to mitigate risks. So there are certain factors that are not under the control of the Mojaloop Foundation or even the Mojaloop community. So for example, political events, change of leadership, those are not really controllable by the Mojaloop Foundation or the Mojaloop community in general. So it's important for an ecosystem orchestrator to mitigate those risks by hedging. In the next slide, I wanted to show a process model that I developed. I understand the texts are quite small here, but this process model aims to kind of generalize the findings a bit further, like beyond the context of payment systems, beyond the context of the Mojaloop Foundation, so that the learnings can be applied to other DPGs with social aims. So the Mojaloop journey can be broken down into three phases, in my opinion, and also into two levels of ecosystem. The first phase was really about mobilizing global ecosystem participants to develop a technological solution that addresses local needs. So it was before the Mojaloop Foundation was established. It was actually a project. Mojaloop was a project of the Bill Gates Foundation, and they recognized the opportunity to improve financial inclusion in African countries. So they formed the initial ecosystem with global contributors to build Mojaloop, and the basis of that was the level 1 principles, which I believe were announced in 2017 or something like that. So, and this morning we had a session on level 1 principles, and we still had this session after like 7 years since the level 1 principles was released, which shows that the level 1 principles are serving as the guiding principles still after 7 years. And in phase 2, was really about growing local ecosystem through capacity building. You've been hearing about the POCs and the accelerator program and the training program, which were all about growing local capacity through these programs. And in partnership with African Nenda, the Mojaloop Foundation identified demand using their local expertise and knowledge. And in the next stage, they created a cross-country knowledge sharing platform that facilitates peer validation. So because the Mojaloop Foundation was new, it suffered from, in my opinion, it suffered from the liabilities of newness, smallness, and foreignness in African countries. And one way to overcome those liabilities was to create a cross-country knowledge sharing platform like the community convening that we're attending right now, so that peer validation can happen in these circumstances. So as Mojaloop was, Mojaloop gained some initial interest from initial adopters. They shared progress, knowledge, and resources in community convenings like this one. And so this cross-border knowledge sharing platform really served purpose for peer validation. And finally, phase 3 is about bridging the global and local ecosystems while hedging for expansion. So when the local ecosystem is mature enough, when it reaches a certain level of development, the Mojaloop Foundation steps in to kind of bridge the global ecosystem and the local ecosystem so that they can be integrated. And the final outcome is the integration of public sector institutions into the innovation ecosystem. I'm talking about the public institutions integration because this is what really enables the Mojaloop Foundation to scale up its impact. So without the public sector players, impact is often limited, and scaling up the impact is a critical factor for DPGs. So I think these learnings from the Mojaloop community are really valuable, and I think they can be generalized to other DPGs with social aims. So that's it. That's all I prepared. I mean, it's incredibly difficult to like summarize 2 years of research in like a 10-minute presentation. But this is a summary of one paper that I worked on with Steve, and there are more to come. So yeah, thank you for again, thank you for your support and the Mojaloop Foundation and the Mojaloop community. And I'm really looking forward to continuing this research on the Mojaloop ecosystem.
I want to thank, before we do claps, I want to thank Kyung for, helping us understand. We're always in the weeds on what we do on a day-to-day basis. And my conversations with you and working with you has helped me kind of take a step back and analyze where we've come from and where we've been. And I want to thank you for that. That's been incredibly helpful. The other thing I want to do is make a point that, again, who's in the room right now is quite different from who's been in the room before. And so you've already talked to hundreds of people from the community. For one of the main reasons I wanted Kyung to be up here is knowing there are a lot of new people in the room. Please open up your time to talk to him, because his ability to track what we're doing and what this IIPS community is doing over years is going to be incredibly helpful for us to understand, again, where we've been, what struggles we've had, and how do we get to the next phase of growth. So please give him your time at the breaks. And once again, thank you, Kyung, and please look forward to this paper being published. I'm quite happy with how it turned out. Okay, thank you
so much. Thank you.